protests, I would go home, everybody would go home, nothing would happen, there wouldn't be any progress from it. The same thing would continue the next day.
Right.
So it made it very frustrating also. And during that time, I've started to find out more about Dr. Ron Paul and hear him running for president during his 2012 presidential campaign. So hearing him speak actually opened my eyes to libertarianism.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first time really getting involved in the political scene, getting involved in any political campaign for that matter with any candidate. I didn't even do that with Barack Obama.
Right.
So he had inspired me in ways that no other politician hadn't before.
Yeah. It's funny how many people say that, because I talk about reading Ron Paul's book, The Revolution, and how that really helped me to formalize what I now consider to be my life philosophy, and also happens to be a political philosophy as well. Ron Paul has really been instrumental for generations in helping people clarify their thinking on how you create a better world for everybody. And so it's always interesting when somebody says that to me, because the man has been responsible for converting and for really spearheading the libertarian movement for 40 years. It's been really creative, really incredible. But hey, I want to ask you some specific policy questions and get your input on taxes and on. We're going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk about the homeless population here in California and kind of what your ideas are for that, and all of that. Give you a chance to really talk about what California would look like with you as governor here in just a second. But before I do that, I need to tell everybody about the sponsor for the show today, which is House Call Pro. Do you own a service business? Do you still use pen and paper? If so, shame on you. Are you constantly chasing down payments for your customers? Have you missed out on jobs because you are away from the phone? Well, if that is the case, then you need to get House Call Pro, because for whatever service business you have, like if I was going to own any sort of like carpet cleaning business or HVAC business, and one of my mentors, I call him a mentor, I've just learned a lot from him, is Joe Polish. And Joe Polish is one of the biggest marketing gurus on the planet now. And he started out in a carpet cleaning business. And he basically built that into a massive, massive business, and then he started selling the formula to people, to other carpet cleaners. He said, hey, I figured out how to make a lot of money cleaning carpets, and I'll teach you how to do it. And so then he started an online business that taught people how to do that, and now he makes $1 gazillion helping people market a variety of different types of products. But you start talking about how do you manage that, things like scheduling dispatching and sending SMS texts to update people on the process, online bookings, payment processing, all that type of stuff has to be done. And what you find as your business starts to grow is that you hit this point where you really need to be doing that, but you're not at a place where you can like hire individual people. You don't need 5 employees. What you need is a service that handles this stuff for you. That's where House Call Pro comes in. So if you are ready to get your service business organized and streamlined with your customers, go to housecallpro.com/Stapleton. Tell them Jason Stapleton sent you, and they'll waive the $99 activation fee. Go to housecallpro.com/Stapleton. Okay, so let's talk taxes first. This state is brutal. It's abusive in terms of its taxes. It seems as though there is never enough tax money. They always need a little bit more. So give me your overall philosophy on taxation, and then talk to me about how we alleviate some, if not all, of that burden here in California with you as governor.
Absolutely. Well, the reason why they always want more taxes is just so they can have more money to spend. Government gets its money from we the people, and it's sad that a lot of people think that it's some special group that, I don't know, prints money out of nowhere and that their taxes actually go towards the roads and schools. But yet here in California, we have failing infrastructure. Our educational system is one of the worst in the country, especially when it comes to our K through 12 program. Mm-hmm. So the money isn't really being allocated properly. And the misappropriation of funds with, cities like Bell and Oakland now, Stockton, et cetera, pretty much mismanaging public funds.
Because some of those cities are bankrupt, right?
Exactly.
They're failing, and so I guess my question is, and I don't know if you know the answer or not, but why? You're talking about a $400 billion in deficits in the state. If you calculate the local and the state budget deficits and debt that they have, you're looking at $1.3 trillion is what I estimate. Okay,
and so then you factor in unfunded liabilities, which is another $3 trillion.
There you go.
You know, it just goes up and up and up.
So then why? Is it just the fact that they're wasting money? Is it the fact that they are because you talk about misallocation of resources? Is it because there are some things, and this is something libertarians need to understand, is that there are some things that the government provides for that in the absence of government, or if the government wasn't handling that, you would still have to pay for. Right. So for example, like the roads. We drive on the roads. It doesn't matter whether the roads are privately owned or whether they're publicly owned, that you're going to have to pay for the road.
Exactly.
So the question is the fact that the government working the roads, because the roads here are terrible, the traffic here in LA is a nightmare, and going further south, it's no better really in anywhere in Southern California,
right.
But LA's particularly bad. If a private industry was working the roads and we were doing some sort of toll system or some sort of by the mile system, is it the fact that the government is misallocating resources and they're just not using the money as well, or is it a matter of they're actually stealing, or they're misusing funds? They're saying they're being used for one thing and then not another. What is the solution? Like how do we clean up $1 trillion in debt and deficits in this state? With the dollars that we have available?
Well, that's exactly what I would like to know, which is why I'm saying as soon as I'm taking office that a full-scale audit of the state's finances will be conducted. This will be completely independent. It won't be by way of the state auditor's office, which is still having issues and finding out where Janet Napolitano's, squandered away $200 million into the ether.
Right.
So when we have issues like that being put out into the public by the news, this is factual information, then yeah, we do need to get down to the bottom of it, but we're putting people in charge to be held accountable for it that did it themselves.
Right.
So, of course, they're never going to police themselves. They're the ones who created the problem. So they're never going to give us the truth. And truth is never going to be an honest answer. And what we expect from government the most and foremost is for them to respect our trust. We're hiring them and putting them into that position as a public official to serve us, we the people, but they're not.
We clearly, according to the budget right now, California spends $100 billion more every year than it brings in.
Right.
So if that's the case, what do we cut? How do we generate an extra $100 billion either through reduction in services? Because this is the hard conversation nobody wants to have. And the fact is, California is like the fifth. I'm going to get this wrong, right? But it's basically the size of a small country.
Precisely.
Right? It's like the fifth largest economy in the world or something like that. Sixth largest. Yes. Okay. So when you say you want to run for governor, when you want to be in charge of this state, you are essentially saying, I want to run a small country.
Precisely.
Okay? And so if you're going to say that, then these are the conversations that nobody wants to have, because what we have is both. It's not because we're taxing too much, not taxing enough, because we're raping people in this state. So it's a question of we need to return more money to the people because we're overtaxing. Now that has a two-pronged effect in some cases. So there's a bell curve that they call the Laffer curve that kind of determines where optimal taxes should be in order for optimal income from taxation revenue.
But what economical system is it based on? It's based on one where we do need those taxes in order to support that system. So we change the system in itself and create something new. The one that's been created for us, it hasn't been working. Mm-hmm. The one based on Keynesian economics, thinking that we're going to be able to borrow in order to create wealth. Wealth is not created out of debt. So we're borrowing money from the people only to mismanage it, spend it. It's just like running your own home. Mm-hmm. Would you ever continue to live off the credit card, or would you ever want to pay off those bills and actually have a chance to real wealth?
No, I love that. So here's the hard question. What do you cut? You're at the house. You're at your house. You're spending more than you bring in. You're putting it on the credit cards, and finally you wake up one day and you say, "Time to quit this. We can't continue to do this." So what gets cut? Do we mow our own lawns now? What's the equivalent to that in the state of California?
Well, the cuts itself, I would say, starts first with what's on the table, and that's with income tax. The majority of our state officials are paid by income tax. So if you cut their salaries, which is what I'm proposing to do, bring those salaries under six figures. The current governor gets paid $175,000. There's city officials that get paid $300,000, $800,000, $1 million. Why are they getting that much money in taxpayers' money?
Right.
So we, again, bring down all of their salaries, which is getting paid off of our income tax, which is 13% at this time. Mm-hmm. We bring that down to zero. Now the people of California have more money in their paychecks, which is what really is going to stimulate the economy. Not government taking our money and supposedly spending it on projects like the high-speed rail, which is going nowhere and tipping $2 billion.
So there's a great example of something we can cut. There's $2 billion in savings right there, because that thing is a disaster.
And this is the way you solve the problem. You sell that off.
Right.
There is another company that would love to pick up that project that have more than enough money, more than enough resources to actually build us a high-speed rail, opposed to it being a slow high-speed rail, which is what it will be if we continue on the path that the Democratic Party is suggesting and Republican Party is suggesting, which is continuing to take money from the people. So when you speak about being a libertarian, I want to make that transition to where we're not taking from people anymore. We're asking. We're letting them know this is the project that we have on the table and would like to collect taxes from you to spend on. And if it's not anything that would be considered by the public and could be voted on or passed by legislature, then it's not going to be passed.
So now, hang on. So I want to make sure I understand correctly. So you are essentially saying that you want to ask people if they want high-speed rail and let them give individually?
It's more agorism, yes.
Okay.
Allowing people to choose for themselves and turning it more into a voluntary society.
Yeah.
To where, again, we're asking people to contribute opposed to forcing them to,
and see,
what they are now.
I've always thought that was a better way of doing business anyway. If you want to build a new park, okay, and the park's going to cost $2 million, then go out to the people in the neighborhood who are going to be affected by that park positively and say, here's the money that we need. And so we're going to open up this pool of money, and for the next 12 months or whatever it is, we're going to try and get you guys to donate.
Exactly.
And to give your money to build this park. And if we raise enough money, then we'll build the park. If not, we're not going to.
And supposedly that's what the budget is created out of anyway, is them doing exactly that. But they're not. They're projected budgets.
Right.
They're saying we want to spend this much amount of taxpayers' money, so we're going to collect this amount from
That's
you.
right. So we're going to take this from you, and what you're suggesting is, hey, if you want this stuff, if you want all these special programs and all this freebie stuff that these transfers that we're doing, you got to pony up.
Exactly.
And the problem is that eliminates all of your wealth transfers, and that's where California is going to get into a pickle, because if you're governor, you're going to have to start looking at the wealth transfers that we're doing, all of these special programs that they've got, the after school programs and the learn music programs and all of this stuff that the government pays for that it clearly cannot afford. Exactly. That it's having to borrow money for. Look,
even the pension.
That type of stuff is just scary, right? But I'm just thinking in general about you're going to have to slash some things that people love. Like I would love the fact that there are after school programs for kids so that they can learn to play instruments and they can learn the importance of music or literature or whatever, or sports programs, stuff like that, to give them a chance, because there are a lot of people who equate their success in life to having those programs, their interest in music, the fact that's what they do now. I know that's probably something that you know a lot about, is related directly to when they were in school and they learned about music, right? Here's the problem. If you can't pay for it, then you can't do it. Like, I would love to give my daughter horseback riding lessons, right? My daughter absolutely loves horses. She would love, if I bought her a horse and stabled that sucker and let her run around, she would die. She'd be there every single day. You know how much it costs to feed and stable an animal? Look, it's just not in the cards.
But now, switch it around to where you, as a taxpayer, now have the choice of where you would like your tax money to go. That's another thing, is we don't actually know where our tax
that is
dollars
true.
are going. We think it's going to the roads when really it's going towards some politician's, first class flight somewhere or some lavish vacation. So if you